South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry. Congressman, you endorsed Senator Graham following a defeat in the primary instead of your colleague Ralph Norman. Now, the New York Times says you were pressured by President Trump. I wanted to dig into that. I mean, is there any reality to that, or you just believe she was the right person for the job?
I mean, the New York Times, I don't think ever even called me about this race. So for them to put that as like pretty irresponsible journalism, but that's kind of what we expect from the New York Times. Look, I think at the end of the day, Darline Graham won. She won decisively. She pulled out Trump voters that typically stay home in primaries. She was able to mobilize a 34 county strategy. She won 34 counties out of 46. And she had the power of the Trump endorsement. Donald Trump came to Myrtle Beach, where I live, campaigned for her. There are thousands of people that came in there. It's the best endorsement in the business for sure. And she's our nominee, and we're going to stand behind her, and we're ready to go take on the socialist radical Annie Andrews. This is not what South Carolina is about. We're not going to elect somebody like Annie Andrews to represent our state in the Senate.
And I know that Senator Graham, she ran into some uncertainty when she admitted during the debate that foreign policy was not her area of expertise. She was honest about it, that a huge part of Lindsey Graham's legacy rested on his work abroad. The primary voters still stood behind her, of course, but will voters care about her resume in the general election?
Well, I think what they're looking for are ideas, right? The capability to drive, to work together as a team with the president to deliver results. When I talk to conservatives around the state, what they're really focused on is not just casting a conservative vote, but delivering a conservative result. I think that's what Darline Graham brings to the table. And the difference between the two parties is so stark, but the difference between Darline Graham and Annie Andrews is even starker because she wants a very radical departure of what has made this country great. And so we're not gonna elect that in South Carolina. We're not gonna elect Annie Andrews to be our senator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Congressman, so I want to zoom out a little bit more on the midterms here coming up, looking ahead. So President Trump sharing a screenshot on Truth Social of a conservative influencer warning that Republicans face a, quote, midterm reckoning for not doing more to advance the president's agenda. Now, I know the House has done a lot, and there's been a huge roadblock in the Senate. Do you think voters, though, can differentiate between the two, or do you think everyone faces that backlash?
I think they can, and certainly the House has done its work. But look, what Newt Gingrich had in 1994 was a contract with America, which is what Republicans could do. What we now have is a contrast for America. And the difference between the two parties is so insanely big that what we get with a Democrat House and a Democrat Senate is very, very different and very, very dangerous compared to what we currently have. And so I certainly want us to be more bold as a conservative. I think we owe it to the voters to do that. But when you look at the results that we've been able to produce this Congress, a safe, secure border, lower taxes, more American energy, there are dramatic wins that the Democrats just aren't proposing. They're not even supporting. They want your taxes to go up. They want your government to be involved in your child's education and replace the parent. They want abortion on demand. They want to focus on things that really drive people away from what has made this country great. And so the differences are clear. The socialist model that they adopt doesn't work anywhere else, has not worked anywhere else. And that's not something that we're going to flirt with in this country.
Yeah, and if they take control, impeachment it will be on the table every day.
Yeah.
That's all we'll do for 2 years is impeach, impeach, impeach.
Right. And speaking of things that Congress has to get done, I know you have a full slate ahead of you and you return from your recess next week. What is first up?
I think the big thing right now is, the Senate did a continuing resolution to keep the government open through the election. Having a shutdown in the middle of election is probably not a good idea. And so I think that's probably part and parcel to what the House will tackle first. But there's a number of things, obviously. And I think, of course, I'm continuing to be optimistic and hold out hope that we get something done like the Save America Act, which is so critical. This is so foundational to our country. You have roughly 85% of the American people that support voter ID. We need to do this on the federal level. Why is somehow divisive when it gets to Congress is still perplexing to me, as I know it is for a lot of your viewers. But we needed to focus on those things and finish strong. We still got time in this Congress to do really important work that we were elected to do. Let's go be bold, seize the moment, be bold and deliver conservative wins for President Trump and for the American people.
Information. truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.